Hi everyone, today we're going to install the pressure gauge, and this is the last of the three basic modifications that I wanted to show you. Important things that you need to consider before buying the components. One, do you want to install the Kepler model or the PTFE tube? The Kepler is that one with a very thin copper tube. You have limited models available, it's more expensive, and I don't know if it's going to fit in all the machines easily. So in general, I prefer the ones that use a PTFE tube. Second thing you need to consider is the size of the pressure gauge. This is the 40 millimeters model. This is my preferred one. I would consider maybe the 63, but not larger than that because it gets weird, disproportional in your machine. So I don't recommend. Then you need to pay attention to the type of the thread, if it's BSP or NPT, because later you're gonna buy some fittings and you'll have problems with the standard. So this is BSP, I recommend BSP, but if you change NPT, just pay attention when you're buying the fittings. Then you have the diameter. This is a 1/8, you have a quarter. I think maybe quarters are more common, but then you will probably need some adapters to convert from a quarter to 1/8 and vice versa. So just pay attention to the size of the components that you're buying. Then the holes. Some things that you need to pay attention on the holes. One is the external diameter and the internal diameter. For Ranchillo Silva, we use 6 millimeters external, 4 millimeters internal diameter. Depending on the machine, it can be different. I think for Filco is 4 millimeters external and 2 millimeters internal, for example. And then you also have the T connection. That's basically you have two models. One is a kind of a quick release. This is the one that comes in the Gaduino. And this is the threaded model where you will just connect the hose here. First you need to pass the nut here, then you connect the hose and you just screw and it's fixed. I prefer this model. I think the quick release is more likely to have leakings, at least is what some people reported. So I recommend this one, but I don't know. The Gaduino community is using the quick release for a long time, and I think they're not having issues, right? They choose very carefully the components, so make your choice. I also recommend having some Teflon tape. I don't trust that those joints will not leak, so I always use Teflon tape. Last thing that you may want to consider, I designed this top box mount for Ranchillo Silva, and I made it specifically for all the modifications that I made. Here we have a space for the dimmer, for the TID, and for the pressure gauge. So maybe if you want to 3D print a box like this, then you will want this model of pressure gauge. Okay, so I'm gonna assemble all this. After that, we're gonna test if it's leaking or not, and then we're gonna finish the installation. Now that it is installed and connected to the hose that goes to the pressure gauge and also to the elbow, and from the elbow to the braided hose that goes to the boiler, you can see that it's not flexible, so it cannot be twisted too much. So I recommend to use the elbow to connect to the hose that goes to the pressure gauge. In the Ranchillo Silva, you can use these holes in the frame to send the PTFE tube to the external side of your machine. This will go to the back of the machine, and you connect here in the pressure gauge. Let me do this now. Now it's time to close the machine. Let me see if I can organize the wires. How can you organize the cables? You can use a zip tie like this. Oh, and I think you notice that I changed the wiring. Now there are no joints. It's a single wire going to the outside. It's safer, it's better, it's more organized. I was improvising, yeah, because I'm using this machine just for demonstration purpose, and I'm gonna install the Gaduino model later. Then I'm gonna make a definitive installation. So here, another issue, how I can put this panel back without messing up with the hose, right? I can't bend it too much, so maybe I'm gonna need an elbow. Now let's talk a bit about this box. So it has this hole here for me to pass the wires and the hose. This is where it's gonna go, but it was designed to fit here without the original lid, and this will serve as a lid. And the other option is to store in the front if you decide to make a hole in your panel and pass the wire through the metal part. And now you can close the box. Let me tell you something about this option. I don't recommend mounting this box on the back unless you have a very good reason, because when you want to disassemble, look, I cannot remove the panel without removing the wires, and it's pretty tight. There's a space also to remove the screws here, at least in this Rancilio Silvia. So in my case, it's temporary because I'm going to install the Gaduino, but I recommend mounting the top mount at the front. In this position, it can be nice if you're not gonna change later, but you will also have to refill your reservoir, and then when you add the water, the space is pretty tight, and also you will want to remove the reservoir to wash sometimes, and then it's gonna be difficult. So I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know if you noticed, but I bought a new microphone to improve a little bit the audio, but I made a mistake and I lost the recording. So I'm gonna add the voiceover here. And as you can see, I finished the installation, turned on the machine. I'm adjusting the PID, checking if the temperature is correct. I'm gonna use a blind filter in the portafilter to increase the pressure in the pressure gauge. Unfortunately, you will not be able to hear, but when I press the extraction button, the pump will be on. Then the dimmer from the minimum, I'm gonna increase to the maximum. Since it is the first time, it will take a while for the water to fill the portafilter and the hose, but in the next times, the response will be much faster. You will not be able to see from here, but the maximum pressure that achieved was 12 bar. And with a blind basket, when you reduce the power in the dimmer, the pressure doesn't decline proportional to the power reduction. But when you're brewing a coffee, it will drop much faster. And with this, we've finished the 3 basic mods that will boost the performance of your espresso machine, and that will allow Rancilio Silvia to give the same quality in the cup that I can get with my ECM Classica PID. And in the next video, I'm gonna measure the temperature stability of both machines to show you how close they are and that they can produce a very similar cup. And after that, we are gonna start the Gaduino mod. I'm gonna refurbish an old Gadia Classic and I'm gonna install the Gaduino. I think it's gonna be the V3 in the Gadia Classic and the V4 in my Rancilio Silvia. Then we're gonna compare both Gadia versus Silvia and Gaduino V3 versus Gaduino V4. Then see you in the next video.